Hey guys, so this is going to kind of be a response video to Reader 1717's Is Harley Quinn a good feminist character? Well, start out by saying that when I read comics before, back in the 80s and early 90s, Harley Quinn didn't exist. I never had any exposure to her on the Batman animated series, and so when I came back into reading comics, um, I was really puzzled by why it was that Harley was such a big deal and why it was that everybody seemed to like her so much. Because to me, she came across as this codependent, pudding Mr. J, uh, bimbo wearing makeup, and that to me wasn't a good representation of anyone in comics. And I can't say that I hated her, but I really, really didn't like the character. But as I've read more Harley, I've come to believe that it's a little more complicated than that. She's not in this situation of her own free will, really. I mean, she was manipulated by the Joker into being this thing that she is now. Um, I think she's an extremely intelligent character. Uh, she's got flaws, but I mean, flaws are what make us all human. You know, adversity and things like that in your life that give you character. And I think that's something that's great about her. I think she's very, very much a three-dimensional character opposed to a lot of characters who don't really have that depth. At least in female characters in comics, don't really have that depth with flaws and adversity and such like that. And like I say, I think that's what gives a character depth. And so I've kind of had a turnaround on the way that I feel about Harley. I think that a lot of stuff that Harley does and everything about Harley is very orchestrated and very, you know, smart the way that it's done. I think that when I read comics before, that there was real over sexualization of women. And I feel as though now that there's almost an effort made to try to take that back to such a level. Like there's a certain stigma about showing a sexy woman uh, in current superhero type of comics and everything. They can dress in skimpy stuff, but if you show them over sexualized, then you get all this hate mail and feedback and all this stuff that's going on. And I mean, it's a different age. I imagine that if, in 1989, if you would have had the internet and everything that's going on with information now, that a lot of those characters probably wouldn't have been walking around with their, chests falling out of their outfits. But I think that with Harley, that the way that she dresses and just her persona in general is done for purposes of manipulation. I mean, I think she could put on a suit and, put on a pantsuit and, go do something else if she wanted. In the newest Harley comics, you know, she tried to go out and get a job like as a therapist or whatever. And I think that's cool. I think that probably she has benefited more from the relaunch of the New 52 than almost any other character. Uh, because without the Joker being there and her being allowed to go out and be her own independent self, you know, in Suicide Squad and, in her own comic and this, that, and the other, it's really flushed that character out to me a whole lot better than it used to be. She's no longer a sidekick character. She's her own character out there. And the story doesn't revolve around anything other than Harley. You know, uh, it's not like it is with most other books where when the female character gets in trouble, they have to rely on a male to come and save them, which to me is more codependent than the way that Harley acts. You know, um, she's not going to have Batman come save her. She's not going to have, Superman come save her or, the Justice League or whoever else it is that's going to come out and save people. She's not going to have that happen. She's going to tackle stuff by herself. You know, she makes her own decisions. She's unapologetic for the decisions that she makes. Um, she goes out there and puts one foot in front of the other and tries to accomplish things and has some zaniness along the way. But I feel sometimes when it comes to comics, like as a male, that I don't really have a valid opinion on feminist type things or females in comics. You know, primarily the comics that I read, I would say that probably 70% of the comics that I read are female centric type books, and that a lot of the others are books that have very strong female characters in it. That's what I read books for. It's the reason that primarily that I read independent books is because of the fact that those characters have got depth in a way that your superhero type books don't really have. Those females don't have that depth. And Harley, to me, is one of the few characters out there that really has that depth. Um, I think that, like Barbara Gordon is another character that really, really has depth. And why I bring her up is that I've noticed in this whole information age thing that's going on since I've been back into reading comics that a lot of times I don't seem to understand the the female agenda in comics. Um, when you had the whole Batgirl cover controversy, I didn't want to do a video on that because of the fact that I felt as though my opinion wasn't valid. Um, but I think that the whole Killing Joke thing and all of that is a obstacle in her life that you know she overcame, made her a strong woman. I mean, she was strong, yes, but I think it's something that gave that character dimension in a way that probably wasn't there before. And I think that's something that with Harley, that the character is just constantly complex. And the more that you show me about this character, the more that I want to know about this character. And she's funny all at the same time. So, that's awesome. But yeah, that's about all I got to say about that. I think that Harley is a very strong female character. I think that she is probably one of the like five strongest um, female characters in comics just because of the way that she understands what she's doing a lot of times, the way that she has dimension, the way that she just is allowed to express herself, unlike anybody else is really allowed to do in comics. And I think she's really become one of my favorite characters that I read and will continue to read and collect and everything else. I totally understand why it is that what the fuss is all about. But anyway, I'm gonna get off here and I'll talk to y'all later.